Supergod, create Civilization 0. Kesha is stunned. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 301 Yellowed Ancient Books. Lu Xuan and others fought hard. During the battle, Lu Xuan found that the martial arts of these men in black were very strange. Are they disciples of a mysterious sect? Lu Xuan guessed in his heart. After a fierce battle, Lu Xuan and others finally repelled the men in black. They continued to explore the island and found an ancient castle. The gate of the castle was closed and some strange symbols were engraved on it. What does this mean? Feng asked. Lu Xuan carefully observed the symbols, trying to crack the secret. At this moment, the gate of the castle slowly opened and a powerful force surged from it. Be careful, Lu Xuan shouted. They were shocked back a few steps by this force walking into the castle. There was a mysterious atmosphere inside. There must be something important in it, Zhao Chen said. They walked forward cautiously and suddenly heard a sinister laugh. Who? Lu Xuan shouted. A figure walked out of the darkness, and it turned out to be the owner of the castle. How dare you break into my territory? The castle owner said. Lu Xuan said, we have no intention of offending. We are just looking for treasures and martial arts inheritance. The castle owner sneered. Then it depends on whether you have the ability. As he said, the castle owner launched an attack. Lu Xuan and others hurried to fight. The castle owner's martial arts are unfathomable, and Lu Xuan and others gradually fell into trouble. This is not a solution, Su Yao said. Lu Xuan was fighting while thinking about countermeasures. Suddenly, he found that, although the castle owner's attack was powerful, there would be a short pause after each attack. This is the opportunity, Lu Xuan shouted. They took advantage of the moment when the castle owner paused and launched a counter-attack. After a hard battle, they finally defeated the castle owner. In the depths of the castle, they found treasures and martial arts inheritance. This harvest is really not small, Li Yi said. However, just as they were about to leave the island, they encountered new troubles. A sudden storm hit the island and their ship was destroyed. What should we do? How do we leave here? Feng said anxiously. Lu Xuan said calmly, don't panic. We will definitely find a way. They searched for materials to make boats on the island. After hard work, they finally made a simple boat. They rowed on the boat and moved forward in the wind and rain. Finally, they left the island and returned to the rivers and lakes. Chapter 302 Can't Retreat. Lu Xuan opened the yellowed ancient book. The words on it were obscure and difficult to understand, as if they were hiding endless secrets. The records in this ancient book seemed to be closely related to the evil magic. Lu Xuan frowned and thought to himself. Master Zhu came over and carefully examined the ancient book. Master Lu, there may be a key to cracking the evil magic. Lu Xuan nodded and continued to flip through the ancient book. Suddenly, a gust of wind whistled from outside the Taoist temple, blowing everyone's clothes rustling. This wind comes so strangely. Feng looked outside the door vigilantly. Lu Xuan closed the ancient book and said, everyone be careful. I'm afraid there will be changes. Before he finished speaking, a low roar of 090 came from outside the Taoist temple, as if some huge monster was approaching. I'll go and take a look, Zhao Chen said, holding the sword and walking out the door. Lu Xuan hurriedly shouted, Zhao Chen, be careful. As Zhao Chen walked to the door, a huge claw suddenly stretched out, and Zhao Chen quickly dodged sideways. What is that? He exclaimed. Everyone gathered around and saw a huge, hideous monster appeared in front of them. The monster exuded a strong evil spirit with red eyes and sharp fangs. Is this a monster created by evil magic? Su Yao's face was pale. Lu Xuan clenched the sword in his hand. Although he was a little nervous, he was more determined. No matter what it is, we can't retreat. After that, he rushed to the monster first. The monster waved its claws and pounced on Lu Xuan. Lu Xuan performed the cloud-long technique, flashed his body, avoided the monster's attack, and swung the sword at the monster's leg. The monster felt pain, roared, and attacked Lu more frantically. Xuan. Feng was not to be outdone and attacked the monster from the side. His punches were fierce and each punch was accompanied by a whirring sound. "Beast, take my punch." Mirunfeng shouted. The monster turned to deal with Mirunfeng, and Lu Xuan took the opportunity to attack again. Master Zhu was on the side, muttering something, waving the whisk in his hand, and shooting rays of light at the monster, trying to weaken its power. Li Yi was observing the monster's flaws from a distance, ready to help at any time. Under the siege of the crowd, the monster gradually fell into trouble, but it still resisted stubbornly and kept roaring. Lu Xuan thought to himself, this monster is so powerful, we must find its weakness as soon as possible. At this moment, the monster suddenly spurted out a black flame and attacked everyone. "Be careful," Lu Xuan shouted loudly. Everyone dodged, but Lu Xuan found that the monster had a flaw in its abdomen at the moment of spitting fire. Now, Lu Xuan rushed to the monster's abdomen like lightning. The monster wanted to stop it, but it was too late. Lu Xuan's sword pierced its abdomen fiercely. Chapter 303 Black Light. Kill. Lu Xuan shouted and started a fierce battle with the puppets. The puppets' movements were stiff, but they were powerful. Lu Xuan defeated them one by one with his flexible body movements and superb swordsmanship. Mirunfeng and others also fought hard on the side. After a hard fight, they finally eliminated all the puppets. It was really dangerous along the way, Su Yao said. Lu Xuan said, but we are getting closer and closer to the magic weapon. Let's work harder. Finally, they came to the place indicated by the map, and an ancient cave appeared in front of them. There were some strange symbols engraved on the entrance of the cave, exuding a strange atmosphere. This should be the place where the magic weapon is stored, Master Zhu said. Lu Xuan took a deep breath. 21 Everyone be careful, there may be more dangers inside. They walked into the cave, which was dark and damp, with the sound of dripping water coming from time to time. The torch in Lu Xuan's hand illuminated the road ahead, and suddenly, a huge python jumped down from the top of his head. Be careful. Lu Xuan quickly swung his sword to block the python's attack. The python opened its bloody mouth and bit Lu Xuan. Lu Xuan dodged sideways, and Mirunfeng took the opportunity to punch the python. The python twisted its body angrily, and its tail swept towards everyone. Lu Xuan performed the cloud-long technique, jumped onto the back of the python, and stabbed it with a sword. The python struggled for a few times and finally stopped moving. Keep going, Lu Xuan said. They continued to go deeper into the cave, and finally found the magic weapon. The magic weapon exuded a powerful evil power, and was surrounded by black mist. This is the magic weapon we are looking for, Lu Xuan said. Master Zhu said, be careful, the power of this magic weapon cannot be underestimated. Lu Xuan slowly approached the magic weapon, trying to seal it. Just when he was about to touch the magic weapon, a mysterious figure appeared next to the magic weapon. Don't even think about sealing the magic weapon, said the mysterious man. Lu Xuan shouted, who are you? Why are you trying to stop us? The mysterious man sneered, I'm the guardian of evil magic. You guys who overestimate your own abilities will all die here today. After that, the mysterious man launched an attack. Lu Xuan and others hurried to fight. The mysterious man's martial arts are strong, and he can control the power of the magic weapon. Lu Xuan and others gradually fell into a disadvantage. This is not a solution, Mirunfeng said. Lu Xuan while resisting the mysterious man's attack, he was thinking about countermeasures. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 304, Injury for Injury. But the robbers were extremely fierce, and some of them seemed to know sorcery, which caused a lot of trouble for Lu Xuan and his team. Everyone, be careful, Lu Xuan shouted. Suddenly, a robber who knew sorcery attacked Lu Xuan, and a black light came straight at Lu Xuan. Lu Xuan had no time to dodge, so he could only block it with his sword. Bang! With a sound, Lu Xuan was knocked back a few steps by the powerful force, and a trace of blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. Brother, Lu, Mirunfeng exclaimed. Lu Xuan wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, and a trace of determination flashed in his eyes. Don't worry about me, keep killing the enemy. He rushed towards the robber who knew sorcery again, thinking to himself, even if it's an injury for an injury, I can't let him continue to do evil. Lu Xuan and the robber started a fierce fight, and both sides refused to give in. Lu Xuan saw the right time, ignored the opponent's attack, and stabbed the robber in the chest with a sword. The robber also hit Lu Xuan's shoulder at the same time, but Lu Xuan's sword was faster and more accurate, and Kang Lin fell to the ground and died. Lu Xuan. Su Yao shouted worriedly. Lu Xuan gritted his teeth. I'm fine. Keep fighting. Mirang, Feng and others were encouraged by Lu Xuan, and became more courageous after a fierce fight. The bandits gradually couldn't resist and began to collapse. Don't let them run away. Xiao Chen shouted. Lu Xuan and others chased them closely and finally eliminated or subdued most of the bandits. It's finally over, Li Yi said with a heavy breath. Lu Xuan looked at the injured people and the corpses on the ground, and felt a lot of emotion in his heart. This is just a small evil force in the world, and there are more darkness waiting for us to dispel. They rested in the town for a few days, and then continued to move forward. Soon, they came to the foot of a steep mountain. According to the news obtained by Master Zhu, the source of the evil magic may be on this mountain. The road on the mountain is rugged and thorny. Lu Xuan and others climbed carefully. Suddenly, a group of people in black rushed down from the mountain and attacked without saying a word. Lu Xuan and others hurried to fight. These men in black were highly skilled in martial arts and had good coordination. Lu Xuan discovered during the battle that their moves were faintly influenced by the aura of evil magic. It seems that we have found the right place. Lu Xuan said. The two sides fought hard, and Lu Xuan, in order to defeat the enemy as soon as possible, rushed into the enemy camp again and again at the cost of his injuries. Seeing Lu Xuan fighting so hard, Mirang Feng also followed and fought desperately with the enemy regardless of his own safety. Xiao Chen and Li Yi were also infected by their courage and fought bravely. Master Zhu and Su Yao tried their best to support them in the rear. Finally, the men in black gradually lost and began to retreat. Lu Xuan and others chased after them without hesitation. They chased to a temple on the top of the mountain. There was an evil atmosphere in the temple. Is this the source of evil magic? Su Yao asked. Lu Xuan clenched the sword in his hand. Whether it is or not, we have to go in and find out. They walked into the temple, which was gloomy and terrifying, and the walls around were engraved with strange symbols. Suddenly, a huge figure walked out of the darkness. How dare you come here? Said the figure. Chapter 305 Lucky Star. The evil soul sensed their arrival and began to struggle frantically. We must strengthen the seal, said Master Zhu. Lu Xuan and others worked together to cast spells to strengthen the seal. But the power of the evil soul was too strong and kept attacking the seal. Lu Xuan decided to inject his inner strength into the seal to suppress the evil soul. Lu Xuan, this is too dangerous, said Mirang Feng. Lu Xuan said firmly, this is the only way. He ignored everyone's obstruction and continuously injected his inner strength into the seal. The struggle of the evil soul gradually weakened, and the seal finally stabilized. However, Lu Xuan fainted due to excessive consumption of inner strength. Lu Xuan, everyone exclaimed. They took the unconscious Lu Xuan out of the ancient tomb. After a few days of recuperation, Lu Xuan finally woke up. Don't worry, I'm fine, Lu Xuan said weakly. Everyone was relieved. They continued to wander in the world and help those in need. Once, they met a girl who was bullied by a bully. Lu Xuan and others stepped forward and taught the bully a lesson. The girl was so grateful that she wanted to repay them. Lu Xuan said, when we see injustice, we should help others. This is what we should do. The girl told them that there was a group of people in a nearby mountain village who often robbed and helped the people. Lu Xuan and others decided to eradicate this bandit group. They came to the mountain village and started a fierce battle with the bandits. The bandits took advantage of the terrain of the mountain village and caused a lot of trouble for Lu Xuan and others in order to break through the defense line as soon as possible. Lu Xuan did not hesitate to exchange injuries with the bandit leader. In the end, they successfully eliminated the bandits and rescued the people. The people were grateful to them. The reputation of Lu Xuan and others became more and more famous, and the righteous people in the world came to join them. They formed a justice league to jointly maintain the peace of the world. However, the dark forces of the world did not stop there. A mysterious organization rose up and attempted to overthrow the Justice League and rule the world. After Lu Xuan and others learned the news, they decided to take the initiative. They went deep into the nest of the mysterious organization and fought a desperate battle with the enemy. In the battle, Lu Xuan exchanged injuries for injuries many times to create opportunities for everyone. In the end, they successfully defeated the mysterious organization and defended the peace of the rivers and lakes. After Lu Xuan and others successfully defeated the mysterious organization, the rivers and lakes ushered in a brief period of peace. However, the good times did not last long, and Lu Lei found that his practice seemed to have reached a bottleneck. One day, when Lu Xuan was practicing, the sky was suddenly covered with dark clouds, lightning and thunder. What's going on? Lu Xuan was shocked. Mirren Feng came and said, "Brother Lu, this is probably the coming of thunder tribulation." Lu Xuan's face was solemn. "It seems that my breakthrough in cultivation has triggered the thunder tribulation." So Yao said worriedly, "Brother Lu, you must be careful." Lu Xuan took a deep breath and prepared to welcome the baptism of thunder tribulation. The first thunder tribulation fell with a bang. Lu Xuan gritted his teeth and used his power to resist, and his clothes were instantly burned. Ah! Lu Xuan roared in pain. Then the second and third thunder tribulations followed one after another, and Lu Xuan's body was covered with scars. Lu Xuan, hold on! Mirren Feng shouted. Chapter 306. Not willing to be outdone, Lu Xuan and others followed the mysterious man into the maze-like valley. The valley was filled with thick fog, with jagged rocks and complex paths, making people feel like they were falling into a fog. This valley is very strange. Everyone must be careful. Lu Xuan looked solemn, holding the sword tightly in his hand. Mirren Feng responded, "Brother Lu, don't worry, we must be cautious." So Yao followed closely behind Lu Xuan, looking a little nervous. Master Zhu held a whisk in his hand and looked around vigilantly. They walked carefully in the valley, and suddenly, a gust of cold wind blew, and a gloomy sound came from all around. Lu Xuan stopped and listened. "Everyone be careful, this sound is wrong." Before he finished speaking, a group of black shadows rushed out of the fog and rushed towards them. Lu Xuan reacted quickly and waved his sword to meet the enemy. His sword passed like lightning, instantly repelling several black shadows. "Humph, a trick." Lu Xuan snorted coldly. Mirren Feng was not to be outdone, and used his fierce boxing skills to fight with the shadows. Su Yao cast spells on the side to provide support for them. Master Zhu used his whisk as a weapon to repel the approaching enemies. After a fierce battle, the shadows disappeared. This is just the beginning. Everyone should not let down their guard, Lu Xuan said. They continued to move forward. The fog became thicker and thicker, and it was almost impossible to see the road ahead. Suddenly, Lu Xuan's feet were empty, and he fell into a trap. "Brother Lu!" Mirren Feng exclaimed. Lu Xuan quickly adjusted his body in the trap and prepared to jump out. At this moment, countless poisonous arrows shot out of the trap. Lu Xuan waved his sword and shot down the poisonous arrows one after another. "Damn, this trap is so insidious," Lu Xuan cursed in his heart. Mirren Feng and others worked together to rescue Lu Xuan from the trap. "Ah, you okay, Brother Lu?" Su Yao asked with concern. Lu Xuan shook his head. "No problem, keep going." They wandered around in the valley, but could not find any trace of the Shenk people. Lu Xuan was anxious. Where did this mysterious person hide? Just then, an ancient stone tablet appeared in front of them, with some strange symbols engraved on it. Master Zhu stepped forward to check. This seems to be the guidance of some kind of formation. Lu Xuan pondered for a moment. Maybe this is the key to finding the mysterious person. They followed the instructions of the symbols on the stone tablet and came to a cave. The cave was filled with a strange atmosphere, which made people shudder. Lu Xuan took a deep breath and walked into the cave first. The cave was dark and damp, and strange lights flickered on the walls. Suddenly, a powerful force attacked, and Lu Xuan dodged sideways. The mysterious person appeared in front of them. "Haha, you are finally here." The mysterious person sneered. Lu Xuan glared. "Hand over the lucky star." The mysterious man shook his head. "If you have the ability, come and get it yourself." After that, the mysterious man formed seals with his hands and activated the 3 UN soul sealing array. Chapter 307. The cause of the past. One day, when Lu Xuan was practicing, he suddenly felt an evil breath approaching. He opened his eyes and saw a group of men in black appearing outside the camp. Who are you? Lu Xuan shouted. The men in black didn't say anything and attacked directly. Lu Xuan quickly stood up to fight. His sword flashed coldly in the sun and the sword was full of fierce momentum. Although the men in black were numerous, they fell one after another under Lu Xuan's attack. Mirunfeng and others also came to support. Brother Lu, I'm here to help you, Mirunfeng shouted. Lu Xuan fought side by side with Mirunfeng. With tacit understanding, Suyeo cast a healing spell for them in the back to ensure that they were not seriously injured. 777 Master Zhu observed the moves of the men in black and tried to find out their origins. After a fierce battle, the men in black were finally repelled. Who are these people? Lu Xuan frowned. Master Zhu said, looking at their martial arts, it seems to be related to the mysterious organization before. Lu Xuan's heart sank. Have they not given up yet? Just then, a spy came to report that an abnormal energy fluctuation was found in a nearby town. Lu Xuan decided to go and check it out in person. They arrived at the town and found that the town was empty and the atmosphere was extremely strange. Be careful of fraud, Lu Xuan reminded. Suddenly, a black shadow flashed behind them. Lu Xuan turned and chased. The black shadow shuttled through the streets and alleys, and Lu Xuan chased closely. Finally, the black shadow stopped in an abandoned house. Come out, don't hide your head, and show your tail, Lu Xuan said. The black shadow slowly walked out, and it turned out to be a masked man. Who are you? Lu Xuan asked. The masked man sneered. You will know soon. After that, the masked man formed seals with his hands and summoned a group of monsters. These monsters were of different shapes and they rushed towards Lu Xuan with their fangs and claws. Lu Xuan was not afraid and the national sword came to meet him. His swordsmanship was as smooth as flowing water and each sword accurately hit the vital points of the monsters. Mirunfeng and others also arrived and joined the battle. With the concerted efforts of everyone, the monsters were destroyed. The masked man saw that the situation was not good and wanted to escape. Lu Xuan jumped out and blocked his way. Want to run? It's not that easy, Lu Xuan said. The masked man suddenly laughed wildly. Lu Xuan, do you think you can stop our plan? Lu Xuan looked at him coldly. No matter what conspiracy you have, I will crush it. The masked man stopped talking and suddenly exploded. Chapter 308. Who will win? At this time, a spy came to report that some strange deaths occurred in the martial arts world. The dead were all people with great martial arts skills, and their deaths were horrible. Lu Xuan was startled. Could this be related to the warning and the dream? Everyone decided to go to investigate. They came to the place where the incident occurred and saw a strange atmosphere permeating the scene. Lu Xuan carefully observed the traces around and found that the dead had a strange mark on their bodies. I have never seen this mark before. Is it some kind of evil spell? Mirunfeng said. Master Zhu said after checking, this mark seems to be related to an ancient evil spell. Perhaps this is the cause of their death. Lu Xuan said. Then we must find out who cast the spell. They asked around and finally got some clues. It is said that these dead had participated in a fight to rob treasures before they died. Lu Xuan thought to himself, could this be the cause of the old days? They continued to follow the clues and found that those who participated in the robbing of treasures in the past have now suffered misfortunes one after another. 21. There must be someone behind this, Lu Xuan said. During the investigation, they met a mysterious woman. The woman's name was Lin Yu, and she claimed to know some inside information. I can tell you the truth, but you must agree to one condition of mine, Lin Yu said. Lu Xuan asked, what condition, Lin? You said, help me get revenge. Those people killed my family back then. Lu Xuan hesitated for a moment and finally agreed to her. Lin Yu told them that in the fight for the treasure that year, a mysterious organization secretly manipulated it, and now they are eradicating the participants of that year. In order to keep the secret. Lu Xuan and others decided to go deep into the tiger's den and find this mysterious organization. After going through hardships, they finally found the nest of the mysterious organization. Everyone, be careful. Lu Xuan said softly. They sneaked into the nest quietly, but were discovered by the enemy. A fierce battle broke out instantly. Lu Xuan displayed a sharp sword technique, like a dragon out of the sea, unstoppable. Mirren Feng's boxing skills were extremely fierce, and every punch was accompanied by a whistling sound. Master Zu's whisk turned into countless rays of light, attacking the enemy. Su Yao cast spells in the back to provide support for everyone. However, the enemies were numerous and powerful, and Lu Xuan and others gradually fell into trouble. This is not a solution, Mirren Feng said. Lu Xuan was anxious, but suddenly remembered the words of the old man in the dream. Is this the result we have to face? Lu Xuan said secretly. Just then, Lin Yu suddenly appeared, holding a mysterious magic weapon in her hand, which emitted a powerful light and temporarily repelled the enemy. Follow me, Lin Yu shouted. Everyone followed her to a secret room. Here is the key to cracking the enemy's conspiracy, Lin Yu said. Lu Xuan found an ancient book in the secret room, which recorded the secrets of the mysterious organization and how to crack it. So, that's it. Lu Xuan suddenly realized. They followed the method in the book and found the core of the mysterious organization. Chapter 309, Martial Arts Experience. Today is your death, the evil leader shouted. Lu Xuan was not afraid. It's still uncertain who will win. At the critical moment, Lu Xuan understood the trick in the secret book and defeated the evil leader in one fell swoop. Lu Xuan, good job. Mirren Feng and others cheered. Lu Xuan looked at the enemy lying on the ground, feeling a lot of emotion in his heart. When will the grudges in this world end? Su Yao said. Lu Xuan said, as long as there is justice, we will not stop fighting. They continued to walk in the world and help those in need. One day, they met a little girl who was bullied by a bully. Lu Xuan and others helped and beat the bully away. The little girl looked at them gratefully. Thank you, Xuan. Lu Xuan smiled and said, little sister, go home quickly. Looking at the back of the little girl leaving, Lu Xuan's heart was filled with warmth. Maybe this is the meaning of our persistence, Mirren Feng said. Lu Xuan nodded. Yes, to protect this beauty. However, what they didn't know was that a bigger crisis was quietly approaching. A mysterious organization was secretly planning a huge conspiracy to subvert the entire world. Lu Xuan and others found some clues of this organization by chance. It seems that there will be another tough battle, Lu Xuan said. They began to investigate this mysterious organization in depth. During the investigation, they encountered various dangers and challenges. Traps, assassinations, mazes, all kinds of means made them defenseless, but Lu Xuan and others relied on their firm beliefs and superb martial arts to turn danger into safety again and again. Finally, they found the core members of the mysterious organization. A decisive battle is inevitable. During the battle, Lu Xuan discovered that the members of this organization were controlled by an evil force. We must find the source of their control, Lu Xuan said. After some searching, they found a huge magic circle. This is the key to controlling them, Master Zu said. Lu Xuan and others decided to destroy the magic circle. But there were powerful guards around the magic circle, and they fought desperately against the attack of Lu Xuan and others. Lu Xuan led the way and fought a desperate battle with the guards. His sword flashed through the air, and each sword carried a determination to die. Mirren Feng and others did not retreat and attacked with all their strength. With the efforts of everyone, the magic circle was finally destroyed. The controlled members regained consciousness. Thank you for saving us, they said. Chapter 310, Fighting for Justice. Lu Xuan said, this journey will be full of dangers, but we cannot retreat. Everyone nodded, their eyes firm, ready to go to the deep mountains, where the evil forces were hidden. Along the way, Lu Xuan had a lot of thoughts in his mind. Why is this world always in trouble? One wave after another. But as long as I, Lu Xuan, am here, I will definitely bring peace to the world, he thought to himself, and his hand holding the sword tightened a little more. Mirren Feng walked beside Lu Xuan and said, Brother Lu, I don't know what kind of dangers we will encounter when we enter the mountains this time. Everyone needs to be extremely careful. Lu Xuan replied, don't worry, we will be able to deal with it. Suyeo said softly, brother Lu, I will follow you closely and will never hold you back. Master Zhu stroked his beard, evil cannot prevail over justice, we will succeed. Lin Feng looked determined, I'm ready to fight for justice at any time. When everyone arrived at the foot of the mountain, they saw that the forest was deep and foggy, with a gloomy atmosphere. Lu Xuan took a deep breath, everyone be careful. They stepped into the forest carefully, and the fallen leaves under their feet made a rustling sound. Suddenly, a gust of wind passed by, and the branches shook, as if something was spying in the dark. Lu Xuan stopped vigilantly and listened attentively. Brother Lu, what's wrong? Murong Feng asked. I feel something approaching. Before Lu Xuan finished speaking, a group of black shadows rushed out from all directions and rushed towards everyone. Lu Xuan's figure flashed, and the sword was unsheathed. A cold light flashed, and a black shadow fell down. Be careful, he shouted loudly. Mirren Feng's boxing skills were like the wind, and every punch was accompanied by a whirring sound, repelling the approaching black shadow. Lin Feng was also fearless, and fought with the enemy. Suyeo cast spells in the back to provide cover for everyone. Master Zhu held a whisk and chanted a spell, and rays of light shot at the black shadow. After a fierce battle, the black shadow gradually retreated. It is not advisable to stay here for a long time. Let's speed up, Lu Xuan said. Everyone continued to move forward, and the mountain road became steeper and more thorny. Lu Xuan led the way in front, and the sword in his hand cut off the thorns blocking the road. Suddenly, a sharp cry came from the front. Not, but, it depends on the situation. He quickened his pace. A huge cave appeared in front of him, and the entrance was filled with green poisonous fog. This must be the nest of the evil forces, Murong Feng said. Lu Xuan frowned. Everyone hold your breath, and be careful of the poisonous fog. They covered their mouths and noses with wet cloths and slowly approached the cave. As soon as they entered the cave, a pungent smell hit them in the face, and strange lights flashed on the walls around them. Be careful of your feet, Lu Xuan reminded. At this time, many spikes suddenly appeared on the ground, and everyone jumped up to avoid them. This mechanism is so insidious, Lin Feng said angrily. Lu Xuan while observing the surroundings, he walked forward carefully. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 311. I have something to ask for. The leader sat on a huge chair with a hideous smile on his face. You can actually get here, but today is your death day, the leader said. Lu Xuan said, your evil deeds end here. The leader sneered, waved his hands, and a strong poisonous gas attacked everyone. Lu Xuan and others hurriedly used their skills to resist. Everyone, be careful, the gas attack is strong, Master Zhu said. Lu Xuan used the cloud long technique. His body was like lightning, and rushed towards the leader. The leader stood up to fight, and fought with Lu Xuan. Mirren Feng and others also joined the battle. The leader was highly skilled in martial arts and good at using poison, and Lu Xuan and others were in trouble for a while. This is not a solution. Lu Xuan was anxious. He suddenly thought of the martial arts experience taught by the master, and he had an idea in his mind. Lu Xuan concentrated his internal strength, and the light on the sword was bright. Take my move, Lu Xuan shouted, and the sword attacked the leader like a storm. The leader couldn't resist, and was stabbed by Lu Xuan. Damn it. The leader was so angry that he used his last trick. The whole cave began to shake, and countless stones fell. Everyone, be careful, Lu Xuan shouted. Suyeo cast a spell, and held up a shield to protect everyone. Lu Xuan took the opportunity to attack again and finally defeated the leader. We succeeded, Lin Feng said excitedly. Everyone was exhausted, but their hearts were full of joy. Just as they were about to leave the cave, another group of enemies appeared. Don't even think about leaving, the enemy shouted. Lu Xuan said, in that case, let's fight again. Everyone, joined the battle again. Lu Xuan's sword was like a dragon out of the sea, unstoppable. Miren Feng's boxing skills were extremely powerful, and the enemies fell one after another. Lin Feng's swordsmanship became more and more fierce, killing countless enemies. Master Zhu and Su Yao provided support to everyone in the rear. After a fierce battle, the enemies were finally wiped out. Lu Xuan and others walked out of the cave, and the sun shone on them. The peace of the rivers and lakes is hard won. Lu Xuan sighed. They returned to the rivers and lakes and continued to do justice. However, the peaceful days did not last long. One day, Lu Xuan received a mysterious letter which mentioned that a mysterious organization was secretly planning a huge conspiracy with the goal of subverting the order of the entire rivers and lakes. Lu Xuan's heart tightened. It seems that there will be another tough battle to fight. He called everyone together to discuss countermeasures. Miren Feng said, "We must find out the purpose and weaknesses of this organization as soon as possible." Master Zhu nodded and said, "Yes, knowing yourself and the enemy will ensure victory in all battles." Su Yao said, "Perhaps we can start with some clues in the martial arts world." Lin Feng said, "I'm willing to inquire about the news." Lu Xuan said, "Okay, everyone will act separately." Lin Feng asked around in the martial arts world and finally got some important clues. It turned out that this mysterious organization attempted to control the major forces in the martial arts world and then dominate the martial arts world. Lu Xuan and others decided to take the initiative to stop their conspiracy. Based on the clues, they found a stronghold of the mysterious organization. Chapter 312, The Hermit of Jianghu. Wuxin bit her lip and said, "I was originally a girl from an ordinary family. My parents were killed by a group of villains. I sought help everywhere, but no one dared to help. I heard about the chivalrous name of Mr. Lu, so I came to ask you to avenge me." Lu Xuan frowned, and a surge of indignation surged in her heart. "There are such villains. Don't worry, girl, I will definitely seek justice for you," Wuxin said gratefully with tears in her eyes. "Thank you, Mr. Lu." Lu Xuan immediately summoned Miren Feng and others and told them about Wuxin's experience. "We must not sit idly by and watch such evil things," Miren Feng said. Everyone decided to set off immediately to find the trace of the villain. After a 5-6-3 investigation, they finally found the villain's hiding place in a remote mountain village. "Everyone, be careful, don't alert the snake," Lu Xuan warned. They quietly approached the mountain village, but found that the mountain village was well defended. "It seems that these villains have been prepared," Lin Feng said. Lu Xuan thought for a moment and said, "We will split into two groups. One group will feint from the front to attract their attention, and the other group will sneak in from the back." Everyone acted according to the plan. Lu Xuan led a group to attack from the front. "Evildoers, today is your doomsday," Lu Xuan shouted loudly. The Evildoers rushed out and started a fierce battle with Lu Xuan and others. The other group led by Miren Feng took the opportunity to sneak into the mountain stronghold from the back. In the stronghold, the Evildoers were resisting the attack of Lu Xuan and others with all their strength and did not notice the arrival of Miren Feng and others. Miren Feng and others quickly dealt with the guards and rushed into the mountain stronghold. "No, there are enemies coming from behind," a villain exclaimed. The leader of the Evildoers shouted angrily, "Hold on." Lu Xuan took advantage of the situation to launch a more fierce attack, and his sword was as swift as the wind, and every move was fatal. The Evildoers gradually couldn't resist and began to collapse. The leader saw that the situation was not good and wanted to escape. "Where are you going?" Lin Feng leaped up and blocked the leader's way. The leader fought desperately, but was eventually subdued by Lin Feng with a sword. "Thank you, all the heroes." Wuxin walked into the mountain stronghold with gratitude in his eyes. Lu Xuan said, "Miss, the villain has been eliminated. You can rest assured." Wuxin suddenly knelt on the ground. "Master Lu, I have another unwelcome request." Lu Xuan hurriedly helped her up. "Miss, just say it," Wuxin said. "I'm alone and helpless. I hope to follow the heroes and travel the world together, and I can also do my best for the heroes." Lu Xuan and others looked at each other and hesitated. Su Yao said, "Brother Lu, Miss Wuxin has a pitiful life. Why not let her follow us?" Lu Xuan thought about it and nodded and agreed. "Okay, girl, you will follow us from now on." Wuxin was overjoyed. "Thank you, heroes." After that, Lu Xuan followed Lu Xuan and others to travel the world. One day, they came to a small town and heard that there was a mysterious cave on a mountain outside the town. Legend has it that there are endless treasures hidden inside. Chapter 313. Doing Evil. Lu Xuan said, "I'm fine, just a minor injury." After a period of recuperation, Lu's injury gradually improved. They continued to move forward in the rivers and lakes, helping those in need. One day, they met a hermit in the rivers and lakes. The hermit looked at Lu Xuan and others and said, "Although you are chivalrous, the rivers and lakes are dangerous and full of dangers. You need to be careful." Lu Xuan said, "Thank you for your reminder, senior." The hermit said, "I have a martial arts secret book here. Maybe it will help you." Lu Xuan and others took the secret book gratefully. In the following days, they practiced hard and their martial arts reached a high level. However, a new evil force appeared in the rivers and lakes. They burned, killed, looted, and committed all kinds of evil. Lu Xuan and others decided to stand up again and fight a life and death battle with this evil force. They went deep into the nest of the evil forces and fought a desperate battle with the enemy. Lu Xuan's sword shuttled through the enemy group like a ghost, killing countless enemies. Mirren Feng's boxing skills are fierce and powerful, and each punch carries the force of thunder. Lin Feng's sword skills are tricky and fierce, making the enemy unable to defend. Lu Xuan is not to be outdone and uses what he has learned to provide support for everyone. Master Zhu and Suyao cast spells in the back to bless everyone. After a fierce battle, the evil forces were finally eliminated. Lu Xuan and others were covered in blood, but their eyes were full of the joy of victory. "We have once again protected the peace of the world," Lu Xuan said. Everyone cheered. On the way back, Lu Xuan said to Lu Xuan, "Loser, after so many things, I understand that the justice of the world needs someone to constantly protect it." Lu Xuan smiled and nodded. "That's right. Our mission is not yet completed." However, what they didn't know was that a bigger conspiracy was quietly brewing. A mysterious organization secretly gathered various evil forces in an attempt to subvert the order of the entire Jianghu. Lu Xuan and others discovered some clues of this organization by chance. It seems that the Jianghu will not be at peace again. Mirren Feng said. Lu Xuan said, "No matter what, we must stop them." They began to investigate this mysterious organization and found that there was a powerful force behind it. "This will be a difficult battle," Master Zhu said. Lu Xuan said firmly, "No matter how difficult it is, we will never back down." During the investigation, they encountered various traps and assassinations, but Lu Xuan and others relied on their superb martial arts and extraordinary wisdom to escape danger again and again. Wu Xuan also gradually grew up in this process and became a brave female knight. Finally, they found the core figure of the mysterious organization. A decisive battle is about to begin. Chapter 314. Formulas and Mental Techniques. In the fierce battle, Lu Xuan unfortunately fell into the enemy's trap and was trapped in a secret room. Damn it. Lu Xuan hit the door of the secret room with all his strength, but found that the door was extremely solid and did not move at all. He was extremely anxious. The brothers outside are still fighting hard. I must get out as soon as possible. At this time, a strange atmosphere filled the secret room, and mysterious runes flashed on the walls. Lu Xuan calmed down, observed the surroundings, and tried to find clues to get out. This rune seems to contain some powerful power. Lu Xuan thought to himself. At this moment, he heard the shouting and killing from outside, and his heart became more anxious. Can't wait any longer. Lu Xuan took a deep breath, used his internal force, and tried to destroy the door of the secret room again. However, everything was in vain. Lu Xuan stopped his action, and his forehead was covered with sweat. Am I going to be trapped here? No, I will never resign myself to it. Lu Xuan's eyes were full of determination. Suddenly, he remembered a mysterious spell he had seen in an ancient book. Xingxiao Wulari Fa. Now, I can only try this Xingxiao Wulari Fa. Lu Xuan decided to take a risk. He closed his eyes, adjusted his breathing, and recalled the formula and mental method of Xingxiao Wulari Fa. Lu Xuan made seals with his hands, chanted something, and the internal force in his body began to flow along the special meridians. Gradually, a layer of light lightning appeared around him. Break it for me. Lu Xuan shouted. Gathering all his strength in his hands, a powerful lightning shot out from his hands and hit the door of the secret room. There was a loud bang, and a big hole was blown out of the door of the secret room. Lu Xuan flashed and rushed out. The battle outside was in full swing, and Mirren Feng and others were fighting desperately with the enemy. Brother, Lu. Mirren Feng was overjoyed when he saw Lu Xuan coming out. Lu Xuan joined the battle without saying a word. The sword in his hand swung like lightning, and each sword was thunderous. Die. Lu Xuan roared and rushed towards the enemy. The enemies were frightened by his momentum and retreated one after another. Wuxin was full of admiration when he saw Lu Xuan so brave. Lu, hero, you are so powerful. Wuxin shouted. While killing the enemy, Lu Xuan shouted, everyone hold on, we will win soon. At this time, the leader of the evil sect appeared. Boy, do you think you can win? The leader sneered. Lu Xuan looked at him and said, today is your doomsday. The leader waved the weapon in his hand and attacked Lu Xuan. Lu Xuan dodged sideways and started a fierce duel with the leader. Both of them had extremely fierce moves, and it was difficult to tell the winner for a while. Lu Xuan thought to himself, this man is very skilled in martial arts. We can't fight him head on. We need to find his weakness during a fight. Lu Xuan found that the leader's lower body was unstable. He seized the opportunity and kicked the leader's leg. The leader staggered and revealed a weakness. Lu Xuan took the opportunity to stab him in the chest with a sword. The leader screamed and fell to the ground. Chapter 315 Clues to the Treasure. At night, Lu Xuan and others were waiting for the monster to appear in the village. Suddenly, a gust of wind blew, and a huge monster appeared in front of them. The monster bared its fangs and claws and pounced on them. Lu Xuan and others fought fiercely with the monster. The monster was thick-skinned and difficult to deal with. Lu Xuan used the Xingxiao 5 thunder method, and lightning struck the monster one after another. The monster roared in pain. Mirren Feng took the opportunity to attack the monster's weakness. After a hard fight, the monster was finally defeated by them. The villagers were grateful to them. Lu Xuan and others became more and more famous in the world. However, they also aroused the jealousy of some evil people. One day, they were stopped by a group of men in black on the road. Ah, you Lu Xuan and others? Said the leader of the men in black. Lu Xuan said, exactly, what do you want? The leader of the men in black said, we want to let you know that being famous in the world comes at a price. Xuan said, then come on. The two sides started a fierce battle. Lu Xuan and his companions were not afraid and fought the black-clad man to the death. Lu Xuan's sword flashed through the air, and each sword was determined to kill. 563 Mirren Feng's boxing was fierce and powerful, and the black-clad man was defeated step by step. Wuxin's sword skills were flexible and changeable, making the black-clad man unpredictable. Master Xuan Suyao cast spells in the back to provide support for everyone. The black-clad man gradually lost and began to flee. Lu Xuan and his companions chased him closely. In a valley, they caught up with the black-clad man. You can't escape, Lu Xuan said. The leader of the black-clad man said, even if I die, I will drag you down with me. As he said that, the leader of the black-clad man detonated the explosives on his body. Be careful, Lu Xuan shouted. A huge explosion sounded, and smoke filled the air. When the smoke dissipated, Lu Xuan and his companions found that they were all injured. Is everyone okay? Lu Xuan asked. Mirren Feng said, fortunately, it's just some superficial injuries. Wu Xin said, Master Lu, we can't let these black-clad men go. Lu Xuan said, of course, they must pay the price for their actions. They continued to venture into the world of martial arts and experienced countless storms. Once, they met a martial arts master who was framed. Please save me, the martial arts master said. Lu Xuan said, don't worry, we will help you clear your grievances. After some investigation, they found that it was an evil gang that framed Wulin Gaokuang. Lu Xuan and others decided to eradicate the gang. In the battle with the gang, Lu Xuan once again used the Xingxiao 5 thunder method, which was amazingly powerful. The disciples of the gang were frightened and surrendered one after another. In the end, the martial arts master's grievances were cleared. Thank you. The martial arts master was grateful. Lu Xuan said, the justice of the world of martial arts should be maintained by us together. Their stories spread in the world and they became heroes in people's minds. The heroic deeds of Lu Xuan and others in the world continued to spread, and their reputation became louder and louder. However, by chance, they got a mysterious clue about the Xingxiao treasure. Chapter 316 Seal it. We must find a way to cross the river. Murongfeng said. Lu Xuan looked around and found a fallen tree. We can use this tree to cross the river. Lu Xuan said. Everyone worked together to push the tree onto the river and successfully crossed the river. Finally, they came to the depths of the valley and found an ancient temple. The temple was filled with a mysterious atmosphere. The treasure of Xingxiao may be here, Lu Xuan said. They walked into the temple and there was no one inside. Suddenly, a mechanism was activated and countless arrows rained at them. Lu Xuan and others hurriedly dodged. Everyone, be careful, Lu Xuan shouted. While dodging the rain of arrows, they found a hidden secret room. Maybe the treasure of Xingxiao is in this secret room, Su Yao said. Lu Xuan carefully opened the door of the secret room and there was an ancient treasure chest inside. Is this the treasure of Xingxiao? Wuxin said. Lu Xuan walked forward and prepared to open the treasure chest. Just then, a black shadow flashed from behind them. Who? Lu Xuan shouted. The black shadow appeared and it turned out to be a mysterious man in black. This treasure of Xingxiao is mine, said the man in black. Lu Xuan said, don't even think about it. This treasure is not something you can get your hands on. The two sides launched a fierce battle. The man in black is highly skilled in martial arts and has strange moves. Lu Xuan and others fought him hard. During the battle, Lu Xuan found the floor of the man in black. Now, Lu Xuan shouted and stabbed the man in black with a sword. The man in black couldn't dodge and was stabbed by Lu Xuan. Damn it. The man in black covered his wound and turned to run away. Lu Xuan and others opened the treasure chest and found that it was not the treasure of Xingxiao, but a map. It seems that this is just a guide, Lu Xuan said. According to the instructions on the map, they embarked on a new journey. Along the way, they encountered various difficulties and obstacles. There were violent storms, steep mountains, and ferocious beasts, but Lu Xuan and others never gave up. Finally, they came to a mysterious island. The island was filled with thick fog, making it difficult to see the direction. Everyone, be careful, this island is weird, Lu Xuan said. They explored the island carefully. Suddenly, a group of mysterious people appeared and surrounded them. Who are you? Lu Xuan asked. This Xingxiao treasure is what we are guarding. You can't get it, Shenlai said. Lu Xuan said, we just want to use it to maintain justice in the world. The mysterious man said, words are not enough unless you can pass our test. Lu Xuan and others decided to accept the test. The test was to find the exit in a maze and avoid various traps and monsters. Chapter 317 It's not accidental. One day, Lu Xuan received a mysterious letter. The letter said that the power of the Xingxiao treasure would bring disaster and must be sealed. Lu Xuan fell into deep thought. I don't know if this letter is true or false, Murongfeng said. Lu Xuan said, anyway, we have to investigate it clearly. They began to look for more secrets about the Xingxiao treasure. During the investigation, they discovered an amazing truth. It turned out that the power of the Xingxiao treasure would indeed cause a huge disaster unless a special method was found to control it. We must find a way to control the Xingxiao treasure, Lu Xuan said. They searched for clues everywhere, and after a lot of hardships, they finally found a method in an ancient book. However, to implement this method, it would cost a huge price. No matter what the price, we have to try it, Lu Xuan said firmly. On a full moon night, Lu Xuan and others began to control the power of the Xingxiao treasure according to the method in the book. During the process, Lu Xuan suffered great pain, but he never gave up. Finally, the power of the Xingxiao treasure was successfully controlled. We did it, Wuxin said. Lu Xuan and others continued to fight for justice in the world and use the power of the Xingxiao treasure to protect the peace and tranquility of the world. However, the changes in the world never stopped. Once they learned that an evil organization was planning a conspiracy to subvert the order of the entire world. Lu Xuan and others decided to stand up and stop this conspiracy. They went deep into the nest of the evil organization and fought a fierce battle with the enemy. In the battle, Lu Xuan gave full play to the power of the Xingxiao treasure and repelled the enemy's attack again and again. Miranfeng and others were also fearless and fought bravely. After a hard battle, they finally defeated the conspiracy of the evil organization, this time thanks to the Xingxiao treasure. Master Zhu said. Lu Xuan said, but we can't rely on it. Our own strength and belief in justice are the most important. As time went on, the story of Xuan and others became a legend in the world, inspiring generations of people in the world. At a Jianghu conference, Lu Xuan was elected as the leader of the martial arts world. I will live up to everyone's expectations and maintain justice and peace in the world of Jianghu, Lu Xuan said. Under his leadership, the world of Jianghu ushered in a period of prosperity. However, Lu Xuan knew that the road to Jianghu was still long, and they would face more challenges and tests one day. Lu Xuan received a mysterious invitation. The invitation read, "Jianghu is in danger. Come and help quickly." Lu Xuan decided to take everyone there. They came to a mysterious place full of strange atmosphere. "Everyone, be careful," Lu Xuan said. Suddenly, a group of mysterious monsters appeared and attacked them. Lu Xuan and others did not flinch and fought a desperate battle with the monsters. During the battle, Lu Xuan found that these monsters seemed to be controlled by some mysterious power. "We must find out the black hand behind the scenes," Lu Xuan said. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 318 Stable Secret. Lu Xuan said, "It seems that all this is not accidental. The change of the heavenly secrets may cause a huge disaster." Everyone's face became very solemn. They knew that they had a heavy responsibility. Then, how should we deal with it? Miranfeng asked anxiously. Lu Xuan pondered for a moment and said, "First, carefully study the prophecy in this scroll and see if we can find any clues." Everyone gathered together and carefully studied the words on the ancient scroll. Lu Xuan frowned and kept thinking in his heart, this prophecy is obscure and difficult to understand. What kind of key information is hidden? Just then, a line of words on the scroll caught his attention. The Holy Pearl appears, and the heavenly secrets are determined. Holy Pearl. Is this the key to solving the change of the heavenly secrets? Lu Xuan said to himself. Wu Xin said, "Brother Lu, 21, but where is this Holy Pearl?" Lu Xuan shook his head. "It is still unknown at present, but we must go and find it." They left the ruins and began to ask around for news about the Holy Pearl. Along the way, Lu Xuan was full of worries. If we can't find the Holy Pearl, the world will be doomed. After many twists and turns, they finally got a vague clue. It is said that the whereabouts of the Holy Pearl may be hidden in a mysterious valley. Lu Xuan and others headed towards the valley without hesitation. The valley was filled with thick fog, making it difficult to see the road ahead. "Everyone be careful, there may be danger hidden in the garden," Lu Xuan said cautiously. They moved forward cautiously, and suddenly, a group of black shadows rushed out of the fog and pounced on them. Lu Xuan drew his sword in an instant, and the sword flashed coldly in the fog. "Who is coming?" Lu Xuan shouted loudly. The black shadows did not answer and attacked directly. Lu Xuan flashed, and his sword stabbed at the black shadow like lightning. His movements were swift and sharp, and every sword was determined to kill. Miranfeng was not to be outdone, and his boxing skills were like the wind, and he fought fiercely with the black shadows. Wu Xin and Master Zhu assisted on the side, displaying their own unique skills. After a fierce battle, the shadows gradually retreated. "Who are these guys?" Miranfeng asked, panting. Lu Xuan looked at the direction where the shadows disappeared and said, "No matter who they are, they can't stop us from finding the holy beads." They continued to go deeper into the valley and finally found a cave. The cave entrance exuded a mysterious light, which made people feel a chill. "This may be the place we are looking for," Lu Xuan said. Everyone walked into the cave, which was filled with a strange fragrance. "Be careful of fraud," Lu Xuan reminded. Suddenly, a low roar came from the cave. A huge monster rushed out from the darkness. The monster was huge and exuded a powerful aura. Lu Xuan's eyes were stern, and he said, "Everyone spread out, I'll deal with it." He flew forward, and the sword collided with the monster's claws, making a clanging sound. The monster's attack was extremely fierce, and Lu Xuan kept dodging. This guy is not easy to deal with, Lu Xuan thought to himself. Seeing this, Mirren Feng rushed over to assist Lu Xuan. The two of them cooperated tacitly, one attacking and one defending, and gradually gained the upper hand. Wu Xin and Master Zhu were also looking for the monster's weakness on the side. Chapter 319 Unbearable. Lu Xuan and others did not dare to stay for long, and quickly left the valley with the holy beads. After returning to the Jianghu, Lu Xuan and others found that the changes in Xianji became more and more obvious. We must use the holy beads to stabilize Xianji as soon as possible, Lu Xuan said. They prepared to perform a ceremony according to the instructions in the book. Before the ceremony began, Lu Xuan's heart was full of tension and expectation. I hope this holy bead can really save the Jianghu. During the ceremony, the holy bead emitted a powerful light, covering the entire Jianghu. Xianji gradually returned to normal, and the chaos in the Jianghu began to subside. Finally, succeeded, Wuxin said. Lu Xuan looked at the Jianghu that had returned to peace, and the big stone in his heart finally fell to the ground. But they knew that the road ahead was still long, and there would be new challenges waiting for them. By chance, Lu Xuan learned about a mysterious organization. This organization has been secretly planning a huge conspiracy to try to break the balance of the Jianghu again. We can't let them succeed, Lu Xuan said. They began to investigate the whereabouts of this mysterious organization. During the investigation, Lu Xuan met a mysterious woman. The woman's name was Linga, and she seemed to know this organization very well. Master Lu, I can help you, Linga said. Lu Xuan looked at Linga and was a little confused. Why do you want to help us? Linga said, because I'm also deeply persecuted by this organization. Lu Xuan decided to trust Linga, and with her help, they gradually approached the core of the mysterious organization. However, the mysterious organization also noticed their actions and strengthened its defenses. I'm afraid it will be very dangerous this time, Mirren Feng said. Lu Xuan said firmly, no matter what, we must expose their conspiracy. They quietly sneaked into the headquarters of the mysterious organization. There was a heavy guard inside, and there were patrolling guards everywhere. Lu Xuan and others carefully avoided the guards and looked for the organization's confidential documents. Just when they were about to succeed, they were discovered by a guard. There is a spy, the guard shouted loudly. In an instant, a large number of enemies rushed over Lu Xuan, and others fought fiercely with the enemy. Lu Xuan's swordsmanship was like a storm, and wherever he went, the enemies fell one after another. Mirren Feng's boxing skills were so powerful that he knocked the enemy to the ground. Chapter 320 Pride and Complacency. They had a fierce battle with this mysterious force. Lu Xuan displayed his newly learned martial arts in the battle. His figure was as fast as lightning, and his swordsmanship was sharp, making it difficult for the enemy to resist. How did this guy suddenly become so strong? The enemy exclaimed. Mirren Feng's boxing skills were fierce, and each punch contained a powerful force, knocking the enemy to the ground. Wuxin's sword was like a spirit snake coming out of a hole, tricky and deadly, making the enemy unable to defend. Master Zhu's magic was radiant, causing great pressure on the enemy. With the concerted efforts of everyone, the mysterious force gradually collapsed. Don't let them run away, Lu Xuan shouted loudly. They took advantage of the victory and pursued, and finally completely eliminated this mysterious force. This time, thanks to everyone's improved strength, Lu Xuan said. However, after the battle, Lu Xuan fell into deep thought. Although we won this time, there are endless crises in the world of martial arts. We must continue to evolve and transform in order to better protect the world of martial arts, Lu Xuan said to everyone. Everyone nodded in agreement. After that, Lu Xuan and others practiced harder and constantly explored the higher realm of martial arts. By chance, Lu Xuan got an ancient secret book. The martial arts concept recorded in this secret book inspired him deeply. It turns out that martial arts can be understood in this way. Lu Xuan was overjoyed and began to study it with concentration. He combined the concept in the secret book with his own practice experience, and his martial arts was improved again. Miran Feng and others also made breakthroughs in their respective practice paths as time went by. Lu Xuan and others became more and more famous, attracting many newcomers to follow. Master Lu, we are willing to follow you and do justice together, the newcomers said. Lu Xuan gladly accepted them and passed on his martial arts experience to them, hoping that they could become a righteous force in the world. Under the leadership of Lu Xuan, this righteous army repeatedly made military exploits in the world and solved many difficult problems. However, the situation in the world became more and more complicated. A powerful evil force rose up, and they tried to rule the whole world. Lu Xuan and others decided to have a decisive battle with this evil force. This will be a difficult battle, but we can't retreat, Lu Xuan said. Everyone's eyes were firm and full of determination. On the day of the decisive battle, the two sides confronted each other in an empty valley. The leader of the evil force looked at Lu Xuan and others and sneered. You want to stop me, Lu Xuan said. Justice will eventually defeat evil, and today is your doomsday. The battle broke out instantly, and the two sides fought fiercely. Lu Xuan took the lead and rushed to the leader of the evil force. The leader displayed powerful martial arts and fought Lu Xuan hard. Miran Feng and others also fought a desperate battle with the enemy. The battlefield was full of swords, and shouts of killing shook the sky. Chapter 321 Opportunity to take advantage of. But they did not become complacent and remained humble. One day, Lu Xuan received a mysterious letter. The letter invited him to a mysterious place where it was said that there were great secrets about the martial arts world. Lu Xuan decided to take everyone with him. When they arrived at their destination, they found that it was an ancient ruin. The ruins were full of various traps and powerful guardians. Everyone, be careful, Lu Xuan said. They carefully explored the ruins and constantly overcame various difficulties in the depths of the ruins. They found an ancient book that recorded a mysterious martial arts practice method. This method may allow us to break through again, Lu Xuan said. They practiced according to the method in the book, and their strength was indeed improved. However, just as they were about to leave the ruins, they were blocked by a powerful force. What's going on? Miran Feng said in surprise. Lu Xuan looked around and said, it seems that we still need to solve the puzzle here before we can leave. They began to look for clues to solve the puzzle, and after some effort, they finally found the key. As the puzzle was solved, they successfully left the ruins. After returning to the Jianghu, Lu Xuan and others found that there was a new turmoil in the Jianghu. A mysterious organization was secretly manipulating some Jianghu events, trying to provoke fights between the various sects in the Jianghu. Lu Xuan and others decided to investigate the organization in depth and uncover their conspiracy. In the process of investigation, they encountered various dangers and challenges, but with the strength of continuous evolution and transformation, as well as firm belief, they gradually approached the truth. In the end, they successfully exposed the conspiracy of the mysterious organization and prevented a Jianghu catastrophe from happening. After so many ups and downs, we have all grown a lot, Wu Xuan said with emotion. Lu Xuan said, yes, but we can't stop. There are more challenges waiting for us in the future. After Lu Xuan and others successfully prevented the Jianghu catastrophe, the Jianghu ushered in a relatively peaceful time. However, this calm did not last long. One day, when Lu Xuan was practicing, he suddenly felt an unusually strong heat wave coming from a distance. He was shocked and immediately got up to check this heat wave. Could it be that some powerful force is awakening? Lu Xuan thought to himself. Miran Feng and others also noticed something strange and gathered around. Brother Lu, this power is unusual. We need to be careful, Miran Feng said. Lu Xuan nodded. Let's go and take a look. The crowd followed the direction of the heat wave and finally came to a mysterious valley. The valley was filled with a hot breath, as if something was burning. Where is this place? Wu Xuan asked curiously. Master Zhu observed it and said solemnly, I'm afraid there is a huge danger hidden here. At this moment, a roar suddenly came from the depths of the valley, followed by a flame rising into the sky. Lu Xuan and others ran towards the direction of the flame without hesitation. When they arrived, they found a huge fire pit burning with a raging fire, and the flame seemed to contain a mysterious power. Chapter 322 Future Plans. The fire giant waved his huge fist and smashed at them. Lu Xuan's eyes condensed and he shouted loudly, "Everyone disperse, everyone." Quickly dodged in all directions and the huge fist hit the ground, stirring up dust and gravel. This guy is not easy to deal with. Feng frowned. Lu Xuan thought to himself, this fire giant is powerful and it is not a good idea to fight hard. We need to find its weakness. Lu Xuan's figure flashed and rushed towards the fire giant, and the sword in his hand drew a sharp sword or a point. The fire giant noticed Lu Xuan's attack and slapped Lu Xuan with his other hand. Lu Xuan turned over in the air and narrowly avoided 187. Brother Lu, be careful. Wuxin shouted anxiously. Lu Xuan while dodging the fire giant's attack, he observed its movements. I don't believe I can't find your flaws. Lu Xuan made up his mind. Feng also took the opportunity to attack the fire giant from the side. His punches were accompanied by whirring sounds, and each punch contained powerful internal force. The fire giant was attracted by Feng's attack and temporarily turned his target to him. Lu Xuan saw the right moment, jumped behind the fire giant, and stabbed at its back neck. However, the fire giant seemed to be prepared, twisted his body, and dodged Lu Xuan's attack. Damn it. Lu Xuan was annoyed. At this time, Master Zhu cast a spell in the distance, and a beam of light shot at the fire giant, but the damage caused to it was minimal. This is not a solution. Lu Xuan panted, and his forehead was covered with sweat. Just when everyone felt powerless, a group of people from the rivers and lakes suddenly appeared at the entrance of the valley. Haha, Lu Xuan, you have come to this day. The leader laughed. Lu Xuan looked closely and found that it was a group of villains who had had a feud with him before. What do you want to do? Lu Xuan shouted angrily. This simian and true fire is ours. If you get out of the way, maybe you can still save your life, said the leader of the villains. Lu Xuan sneered. Don't even think about it. You won't succeed as long as I'm here. The villain stopped talking nonsense and rushed to the fire pit, trying to snatch the sinew and true fire. Stop them. Lu Xuan shouted. Feng and others immediately turned around and started fighting with the villains. Lu Xuan was furious. These guys are taking advantage of others. It's really hateful. He once again focused on dealing with the fire giant, and his swordsmanship became more and more fierce. The fire giant seemed to be frightened by Lu Xuan's momentum, and his movements were slightly slowed down. Lu Xuan took the opportunity to stab the fire giant's knee with a sword. The fire giant felt pain and knelt on one knee. Now, Lu Xuan shouted, flew up, and stabbed at the head of the fire giant. Chapter 323. Sit back and do nothing. There were attacks from ferocious beasts and obstacles from bad weather, but Lu Xuan always maintained a firm belief, no matter what, we must leave safely with the 3 yuan true fire. After several days of running around, they finally returned to a small town in the Jianghu Point. However, they found that the atmosphere in the town was a little abnormal. It seems that something is wrong here, Wuxin said. Lu Xuan observed the surroundings vigilantly. Suddenly, a group of mysterious people surrounded them from all directions. Hand over the 3 yuan true fire. The mysterious man shouted. Lu Xuan said, who are you? The mysterious man did not answer and attacked directly. Lu Xuan and others rose up to resist and launched a fierce battle with the mysterious man. Lu Xuan's swordsmanship was like a storm. Feng's boxing was fierce and powerful, and Wuxin and Master Zhu also tried their best. During the battle, Lu Xuan found that these mysterious people's martial arts were very strange, and they seemed to be members of a mysterious organization. Is it possible that they came for the 3 yuan true fire again? Lu Xuan thought to himself. After a hard battle, Lu Xuan and others finally repelled the mysterious man. It's not suitable to stay here for long. Let's go quickly, Lu Xuan said. They hurriedly left the town and continued to move forward. Along the way, Lu Xuan kept thinking about how to deal with the troubles that came one after another. This simian true fire is like a hot potato, which has caused countless troubles. Feng said. Lu Xuan said, but we can't give up. This may also be an opportunity for us to improve our strength and maintain justice in the world. Soon, they came to a temple. The monks in the temple heard about their experience and decided to help them. Donors, you can take shelter in the temple for a while. The monk said. Lu Xuan said gratefully, "Thank you, master." In the temple, Lu Xuan and others got a moment of peace. But they knew that the danger outside still existed. Lu Xuan used this time to practice continuously, trying to further improve his martial arts. I must become stronger in order to protect the sinew and true fire and protect the peace of the world. Lu Xuan swore secretly in his heart. One day, when Lu Xuan was practicing, he suddenly felt a strong breath approaching the temple. "No, a strong enemy is coming," Lu Xuan said. He immediately led everyone out of the temple, only to see a mysterious old man standing at the door. The old man looked at Lu and said, "Give me the sinew and true fire, and I will spare your life." Chapter 324. Fight with all your strength. "This water monster is so rampant, we can't just sit back and watch," Lu Xuan said. Mirren Feng nodded and said, "Brother Lu is right. We should go and meet this water monster and get rid of it for the people." Everyone decided to go to the lake to find out. When they came to the lake, they saw that the lake was turbulent and exuded a strange atmosphere. "Everyone, be careful. This water monster may be difficult to deal with," Master Zhu reminded. Lu Xuan and others searched for clues along the lake and found some debris and blood after being attacked by the water monster. "It seems that this water monster is very cruel." Wu Xin frowned and said. Just then, a huge wave suddenly rose on the lake, and a huge water monster jumped out of the water. The water monster was huge, with a hideous face, and water droplets were flowing on its body. "Bold water monster, how dare you do evil here?" Lu Xuan shouted loudly. The water monster roared and rushed towards Lu Xuan and others. Lu Xuan was not afraid at all and faced the water monster, waving the sword in his hand. Mirren Feng also used boxing to fight with the water monster. The power of the water monster is very strong, and every attack has a huge impact. Lu Xuan and others gradually felt exhausted. "This is not a solution. We must find its weakness," Lu Xuan said. While dealing with the water monster, they observed its movement. Suddenly, Lu Xuan found that there was a scale on the belly of the water monster that was different in color from other places. "Maybe that's its weakness," Lu Xuan shouted. He flew and stabbed the water monster's abdomen. The water monster sensed Lu Xuan's intention and tried to block it. Mirren Feng took the opportunity to attack the water monster's head to distract its attention. Lu Xuan finally succeeded in stabbing the water monster's weakness. The water monster screamed and fell to the ground. Finally, solved. Lu Xuan breathed a sigh of relief. However, just as they were about to leave, a mysterious force appeared in the water and dragged the water monster's body into the lake. "What's going on?" Wu Xin said in surprise. Lu Xuan frowned. It seems that things are not that simple. They returned to the town and asked the people for more information about the water monster. An old man told them, "This water monster is called Lian Huoking. It is said that it is controlled by an evil force, so it will do such evil." Lu Xuan said, "No matter what force is behind it, we must eradicate it." They decided to investigate the matter in depth. During the investigation, Lu Xuan and others found some strange runes and sacrificial supplies, which seemed to be related to some evil rituals. "What kind of evil magic is this?" Mirren Feng said. Master Zhu studied it carefully. "This may be a magic to control water monsters," Lu Xuan said. "We must find the person who cast this magic." After many investigations, they finally learned that there was a cave at the bottom of the lake, which might be the source of the water monster. Lu Xuan and others dived into the bottom of the lake without hesitation and entered the cave. Chapter 325. Big Secret. Lu Xuan and others did not flinch and fought with all their might. In the fierce battle, Lu Xuan found that the Black Shadow's magic power seemed to be weakening. "His power is almost exhausted. Everyone work harder," Lu Xuan shouted. Upon hearing this, everyone used their strongest moves. In the end, the Black Shadow was defeated by Lu Xuan and others. "It's finally over," Mirren Feng said. However, just as they were about to leave the temple, they found a mysterious ancient book hidden in the temple. Lu Xuan opened the ancient book, which recorded a terrible spell. If it fell into the hands of bad people, it would bring a huge disaster. "We must destroy this ancient book and not let it harm the world," Lu Xuan said. They destroyed the ancient book and eliminated the hidden danger. After returning to the world, Lu Xuan and others became more famous. The people were grateful to them and praised them as heroes of the world. But Lu Xuan knew that the road to the world was still long and there were more challenges waiting for them. By chance, Lu Xuan got a clue about the mysterious treasure. It is said that this treasure contains endless martial arts secrets and rare treasures, which can greatly enhance their strength. This may be our opportunity to improve our strength and better protect the world. Lu Xuan said. Everyone decided to go together to find the treasure. According to the clues, they came to an ancient castle. The castle was gloomy and terrifying, full of various mechanisms and traps. Everyone, be careful, don't touch the mechanism, Lu Xuan reminded. They moved forward cautiously and suddenly heard a low roar. A huge monster rushed out of the darkness. The monster was covered with spikes, and there was a fierce light in its eyes. What kind of monster is this? Wuxin exclaimed. Lu Xuan said, no matter what it is, we must defeat it. They fought fiercely with the monster. The monster's attack was very fierce, and Lu Xuan and others took a lot of effort to subdue it. Continuing to move forward, they finally found the location of the treasure. However, the treasure was protected by a powerful barrier. This barrier is not easy to break, Murongfeng said. Lu Xuan said, let's try together. Everyone concentrated their internal strength and attacked the barrier. After some effort, the barrier was finally broken. They entered the treasure room, which was filled with various precious items. These martial arts secrets are very useful to us, Master Zhu said excitedly. They selected the secrets and treasures that suited them and prepared to leave the castle. Just then, a group of robbers suddenly poured into the castle. Hand over the treasure, the robber leader shouted. Lu Xuan said, don't even think about it. The two sides started a fierce battle again. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.